That's enough of that. Wow, it actually started the stream up real quick. Hey, I'm the Expert Layman, and I am having so much fun with my Smite Priest. So much fun. Got to go into Karazhan. So I'll be talking a little bit about that. Not really going to be playing much. So, I am going to be needing... Let me do a little quick audio check. That will suffice. I think I'm flying at Karazhan. Alright, chat. Maybe not. Where the hell am I? I think it's this way. Anyway, oh, that's probably the thing. Let me switch over to the other screen. And I made out like a freaking bandit. I got... Okay, I'm going to go through... I think I found a better way to express what it is I'm looking for in gear, because it isn't just like, here's your best stat, here's your second best stat, here's your third best stat, you know. Get as much as you can in that priority. There you go. It doesn't quite work like that with this build. So, there are a hierarchy of priorities, you know, there has to be, but the way it goes is every piece of gear that can have damage and healing on it should have damage and healing, which is basically every piece. Now, trinkets or whatever you might want to swap out for different effects, but essentially every non-trinket piece of gear should have damage and healing on it. Every piece should also, that can have it, and you know, trinkets rarely do, should have spirit on it, and as much as you can get. There should also be 2 other stats on each piece of gear if possible. Now, what those stats are less important. These would be things like intellect, stamina, grit. Like, they're not worthless, but they're just worth a lot less. But you want to make sure to have spirit plus 2 other stats, plus damage and healing on each piece of gear. It has to do with how they itemize things. They don't, in itemization, they don't take spirit seriously. So if you get a bunch of pieces that are at the upper end of what they will put on a piece of gear, and you collect all those pieces, you end up with a lot of spirit. Like, plus 400 spirit. So when I'm looking for a piece of gear, I want lots of spirit, at least 1, preferably 2 or 3 other stats in the order I mentioned. And you don't actually make a distinction between... sorry, thought I got a message. You don't make a distinction between healing, you know, 4 times the healing over damage, you know, whether it's symmetrical damage and healing or whether you have a lot more healing than damage. That is, for the build, that is not important. I mean, if you have a 2 pieces of gear that are virtually identical and that's the only difference, yeah, you probably go with the DPS or, you know, the symmetrical split of damage and healing, but it's not that important. So I think people might be a little confused by my gear, which I will go through, because I have the healing set. But by that criteria, I have a lot of spirit, at least 2 other stats, and a lot more than 2 other stats. Now it is healing over damage, but it's giving me everything else I need. And this one I finally got. I have no mana per 5 on my character at all. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to pull that off, because that is just a dead stat for priests. I mean, yes, it technically does increase your mana pool over time, but it doesn't interact with any of your talents, and I don't know. It's like the lazy button when they were doing builds and stuff. Shoulder is another set piece, but I do need the hit, and I don't really care about the intellect so much. And again, you know, 20 spirit plus at least 2 other stats, then I can get hit on it. It is nice to be able to have an uninterruptible heal. If you pull aggro, you just freaking just spam heal you in the tank, and your binding heal isn't interrupted by damage. So that's kind of nice. And again, spirit, 2 other stats, 3 other stats. It's the mold well, and of course, you know, so far these I can't seem to replace because they have the damage and healing. They've got the spirit. And they've got 2 other stats. And every time I try to replace them, I'm giving up one of those things. And again, damage and healing, a lot of spirit, 2 other stats. This is a wand, so I'll cut some slack, but it is still spirit, one other stat, and damage and healing. See the pattern here. I don't really care about intellect and stamina so much. You'll acquire it. But I did at one time end up with like really low stamina, and that's why I have like a lot of stamina armor kits and stuff. Fits really well. That's perfect. These are insane. How are these green? It is a group quest, but seriously, that is a crap load of spirit. I got my 2 other stats, plus a 3rd stat of hit rating, and it actually has a fair amount of damage and healing on it. So, like, people are going to look at me weird when epic, like, caster legs drop, and I'll be like, no thanks. What are you talking about? This was something else I got during the run. Oh, I got the staff, the wand, and the boots. Again, perfectly fits with the thing. And this, 1 other stat, 2 other stats. And I switch my trinkets around a lot, so it's not really good. I have a hit rating trinket that's just holding a place until I get that scryer hit trinket. And what's great is about these two, you pop them together and then you spam Holy Nova and it's freaking insane. So that's what I got. Damage-wise, I was basically keeping the mages alive. We had 3 mages, and they're having their little, DPS competition, especially with all the AoE pulls. And more than once, I got the best of all 3 of them on AoE pulls. And I was usually at least number 2 on the AoE pulls, which is which is funny when you're going up against. Well, one of the mages was comparably geared to me, maybe a little less, but the other 2 had significantly more. And I was besting one of the 2 better geared mages on each AoE pull, which was fun. But more important than that, I'm in their group, so like I'm spamming like 5 to like at least 500 health per second to all the mages during the AoE pull. So like they kind of they like started dying, then they stopped dying because they heal, and then they got used to the healing, because like whenever you like make a change to like someone's behavior, you're like, okay, well that's it. But it's like, no, there's always going to be pushback. It's like you think they're dying because it's dangerous. They're dying because they're pushing the edge. When you move the edge, they they survive better, but then they realize where the new edge is at, and then go up to that edge and just start dying as much as they did. So by the end of the run, the death of the mage is, I might be exaggerating a bit for comedic flair, but yeah, I had a couple of fights. Like somebody broke a flame wreath, and just prayer of healing, It's like, when things go sideways, I can instantly start healing, and I'm healing as good as the other healers. That's the true beauty of the build. Because you don't see too many freaking healers going around with like 700 spell damage, 1200 healing, and my buff dropped off, but like, about 600 mana per 5. Oh, the one trinket that I'm trying to figure out the most utility for is this one. It seems to have a 1-minute internal cooldown. About 130 spirit is a lot. I believe I get about 50 spell damage out of that. Let me make sure I got it. Oh. Where's the levitate? Where's the levitate? Yeah. Well, yesterday I turned off my auto dismount in flight, so it's going to be a fun couple of weeks. But yeah, just casting. Oh wait. Just casting Prayer of Fortitude was enough to proc the trinket. So the proc apparently go off as soon as you equip it, but I believe it has a 1-minute internal cooldown. So what I think the best use of this might be is in those really long fights, where you basically run out of mana. And I was a little annoyed because I know it's not always possible to keep a judgment when you're healing on like on the target, like especially like Prince, like you don't want to. Their range doesn't really allow them to judge them in that. But there were others where it's like judging them with light. Like, why are you judging? You have 3 mages and a freaking priest. You have 4 caster DPS. Maybe put a Judgment of Wisdom on there, and then, you know, they can attack more aggressively and stuff dies faster. I don't know. The Judgment of Light in a raid, like, that's doing so little that it's virtually nothing. It'd be like keeping a heal over time on somebody that does, like, you know, 50 health every, you know, 2 seconds. Like, yeah, technically it's healing, but it's not really doing much. Okay. Well, maybe I was a little more annoyed about it. It just seemed weird. But when, you know, when you burn out on mana, what I can do is I pop this, which, let's see how much bonus damage it gives me. Oops. Yeah, that's like 58 spell damage from 130 spirit, or damage and healing. That's the double dipping with the this compounds. It doesn't add to your 25%. Your 20, like all the your 25%, and then all the other calculations are done. And then after that's done, it compounds it with another 10%, which ends up being closer, almost 50% overall. So that's why 130 spirit can get me 58 damage and healing. But see, when I pop that, I pop that, take a break, and just wand, like, and then I have like way more spirit. I'm regenerating like crazy. I forgot to look at what my regen was, but I imagine it's probably close to 700 mana per 5 while I'm not casting. So that kind of like when you want to take a break and wand and get some mana back, like I already regen like crazy when I start wanding, and this just takes it up a notch. And then the other beautiful part of that is there's a very good chance when I start casting again that this will proc, because, you know, it's on the 1 minute or 30 second or whatever, 45 second cooldown. It will probably proc when I start casting again, which will take me up to let 50% of my regeneration keep going, which would be, I don't know, like 300? 450, something like that. So that even when I start casting, I keep more of my regeneration going. I think that might be the best use for this trinket. And single target, I wasn't doing too bad. The sad part was there were no damage buffs for me in the raid. The only buffs were like intellect and Mark of the Wild. And I understand salvation, it's a raid, but spirit or Kings does so much for me. I think I'm almost at the point where Kings gives me like, it's like 60 damage and healing and like a bunch of crit and a crap load of mana regeneration. Like, Kings does so much for me. And there were no like debuffs being put on anything that increased my crit or damage. Occasionally I saw a Judgment of Wisdom or a Judgment of Light, but it didn't seem to come up very often. If there was a Judgment of Light, I'd have been tearing up the single target meter, because that's like 10% like on the top. I think that's what I wanted to get through. So in the future, yeah, I want to get that trinket, that hit trinket. I want to keep building by the metric that I'm going by, and it seems to be working really well. Let's see. Oh, damn it. See if I can find a good example. It was nice on Ilhuff for like spamming, taking out imps. Like, it's the there's like a half AoE, half single target DPS strategy where if there's enough targets around you and you pop Holy Nova, it'll use. And I'm thinking about, you know, getting a downrank Holy Nova. What is the downrank Holy Nova? I am curious right now. Because what I can do is, I can pay 166 mana, and then get a free smite. 166 mana, free smite. Because if, past about 4 targets, you have a 50% chance, somewhere around a 50% chance of getting a smite. But after, like, 7 or 8, and that's allies and enemies, after that, it's basically an automatic, you're automatically going to get a flash of light proc. So what I'm going to start working on selectively, because I've been using the top rank Holy Nova because I do want to do damage at the same time. But if I just want to do a hybrid, I can do a 166 mana Holy Nova. And as long as there's like, I don't know, 8 targets, I'm going to get a free flash of light proc, and then I can do a free instant cast Smite. So literally, if there's enough targets around, I think... Let's see what happens to my mana regen if I just... I got a flashlight proc off the first one. Yeah, I think I can keep this up for quite a while. Virtually indefinitely. Yeah, I think I'm going to be doing that more. But that's the thing I'm more... You know, I feel like someone at Blizzard had this, like, idea for, like, the ultimate hybrid spec, but, like, they didn't finish, and they got sidetracked, and then not all the pieces that needed to get done were finished. Because I tried this so hard in vanilla. So hard. And it just wasn't there, because I don't think the improved Divine Spirit worked the way it did now. And I believe they reduced some mana costs, and they fixed Holy Nova, because Holy Nova was not supposed to generate, you know, a threat from its damage or healing, but tons and tons of mobs just ignored that fact, which made it like, you didn't know if you were just going to get, like, ganked. And I don't know, I wanted to make it work so bad in vanilla, and I couldn't, and that it's actually working now, and that I can actually go into, like, 5-man dungeons and be top damage against mages with better gear than me. Granted, you know, maybe they suck or they weren't trying very hard, but it's kind of a dream come true, you know? Long term. Like a dream that you worked so hard on and, you know, kind of let go of, and now it's like, it's back and it's actually happening. It makes you, it makes me very, very happy. Well, that's all I really wanted to get to. I kind of had to just do something on YouTube because I haven't posted anything in a few days, and I am excited about this. And I got into a really awesome guild with really chill people. I'm not sure if they want themselves promoted, so I'm not going to mention them, but they are silly and self-deprecating, and it doesn't have, like, the veiled, you know, under the hood hostility. Whoops. I forgot that. Well, let's go back to center screen. A lot of the veiled hostility, and I don't know. When people are willing to have fun at their own expense, it's a really good sign of their character. So, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching. Please, if you have a chance, try out the Holy DPS spec. It is so much fun. And I am the Expert Layman. You all have a great day.